Good evening. This live streaming will be in English because we have over 40% of our public from overseas. And it's been quite, I believe, it's been quite some time. I believe at least 2 months that I don't open a live streaming in English. And I feel that I am neglecting, that we are neglecting here, this public that is so dear to us. Because over time, you people follow us, you ask questions, you make donations, and I feel we do need to give you an update. And I put the name or the title of this live streaming about awakening, because truly when we look at everything that is happening in the world, I believe that we do have as many options as we can perceive and create opportunities. But I guess 2 main ones I would like to talk. When we look at everything that is happening in the world today, when we look at the environment, when we look at master animals' lives, when we look at humans' health, we can complain about it or we can change it. Of course, complaining is much cheaper. We don't need to do anything. We just need to sit and talk and complain and blame somebody else. But if we really choose to see a better world, then we can choose to change. If we have already changed as far as our diet, as far as our lifestyle, still sometimes we need to look at ourselves and ask ourselves if there is something else that we can change. For instance, if you are already a vegan, perhaps you can change yourself in the sense of having more patience to talk to people who are not vegan yet. Because we need to talk to these people. We need to bring them in this movement. Because we are not talking just about master animals. We are talking about the environment again. We are talking about humans' health. We are talking about something that needs to be talked. Something that needs to be put over and over again in our heads, in our hearts, in our lifestyles. Because again, we can complain about the world or we can do something about it. And I would like us to be a kind of people that we change things. I would like us to really look at everything that is wrong in the world today and have the courage to change and to inspire change. I am positive that no matter where you are in the world today, I bet you can talk about something going wrong. Because it's not the environment that's going wrong, it's not master animals who are going wrong, we are going wrong because I ask you to excuse myself for saying this, but we have lost touch with our heart. Our heart in the sense of where do we have our values? Our values, they are not intellectual values. They are values that we have anchored in our hearts. And if we do not have access to our hearts anymore, we do not have access to these values. So we do anything because who cares? We are just talking and thinking about ourselves. We are just living a life of selfishness. But in the end of this life, if we could stop and think, if we could really think that we are just ahead of time, looking back at our lives, will we be happy to remember that we took advantage of innocent beings, that we could have done something and we chose to do nothing? Will we be proud to have given up? Will we be even joyful for having had the little moments of happiness in our lives? So again, I think we just need to look at ourselves and realize, okay, everything around us seems a mess. Because again, if we have the courage to look at the world today, we'll see many things to change. And we can look at these things and complain. And this is the cheapest and this is the easiest. We just look and complain. And then the second step is to look at somebody and blame that person. And this can be the government, it can be our parents, it can be our culture, it can be you choose. But there's this second option, talking about change. And this is the emphasis that I would like to put here on this talk, about change. Because you can change, I can change, we all can change. It's hard because sometimes we do not want to give it up. It's hard because we are attached to the pleasures, as we know. For instance, we may like the taste of milk, and that's okay. You like the taste of milk, that's fine, but it doesn't mean that we need to drink milk. And it doesn't mean that we don't have the strength to give it up. Because what kind of pleasure is this? That I don't care about somebody else just because I like the taste of it. So I like the taste of cheese. Okay, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that I like that somebody else will suffer because I'm eating cheese. So for me, on a second thought, that cheese is not very good anymore. It doesn't taste as good as before because I have started to think about whatever happens that is beyond what I'm seeing as a product. Whatever I'm seeing as an environment that is not a problem of our environment, but it is a problem of our lifestyle. So I am here thinking, or actually asking you to think over, to think twice with me. Let's look at the word and give it a second thought. Let's think about, okay, if master animals are these wonderful beings and this one here doesn't have an eye. He doesn't have an eye. They took it out. So if we look at them and we see love and we see this wisdom in the sense of caring for each other, and if we look at the environment and we see wisdom there as well, so we need to look at ourselves. And we need to be strong enough to look at ourselves, and many times, without looking at wisdom. In other words, we look at ourselves and we don't find wisdom. Because again, wisdom is something that connects compassion and also consciousness. And if we are only here and not here, we are talking about our intellect. And then we start doing whatever we want because again, we don't care anymore. And because I like the taste of cheese, then that's fine. And I don't care that other beings suffering because I'm not connected to my heart. So again, let's think it over. Let's think it twice. Let's start to ask what we can do to change the reality as it is today. So when I talk about awakening, I would like us, I would suggest us to look at this word and think to ourselves, okay, this can be a great school. This can be a private lesson to our spirits. What are we learning? Because there's something that I also would like to talk. If we get into this word and we think this is just a holiday for our souls, we're going to get into a lot of frustration. Because here is a place to work. And usually to work hard. To work hard on the things we believe. To work hard to evolve. To work hard to change. This is not holidays. And if we think that we are here just for a great time, we might again get very frustrated. But if we look at this word and think, okay, this is a great school, and every single being here is teaching me something, then perhaps maybe we can be humble enough to look at a master animal suffering and ask, okay, what can I learn from this situation? One, and two, how can we change the situation? Because I'm going to talk here about two kinds of pleasures. I talked about the pleasure of tasting milk, for instance, or cheese, that when we give a second thought, we say, okay, this is not so good anymore because I realize somebody else is suffering and I do not want to say something is good for me if somebody else is getting hurt because of my choice. Fine. Now I'm going to talk about a second pleasure. And this second pleasure is a tricky one and we need to think about it. And I would like us to realize that we are much happier with the second kind of pleasure than with the first one. And I will explain. For instance, if you are, I don't know, if you were in your car, you are driving a highway, and for Christ's sake, somebody gets in an accident, and you get out of your car and you get out of your way to help that person, and you realize after that that person, that being, just recovered, or that person was saved because of your action. This is a kind of pleasure that is not related to the senses. This is related to your soul. What I'm asking here is, can we have more pleasure, or actually pleasure, related to our souls instead of pleasures related to our bodies? Because when we relate pleasures to our bodies, the only thing that we can do is to get trapped in our ego. But when we get pleasure from our souls, or when we stimulate this to happen in our spirits, then it's a different kind of pleasure. This is happiness. This is true happiness. Because I'm happy because the other being is happy. Because I can imagine this, it's just like I can be happy just for myself, or I can be happy because everyone is happy. I'm much more happier. Do you see? So again, I would like us just to look at this. We can complain about the word, or we can change the word. The way to change the word is to change ourselves. And to change these little relations that we have with food, with the environment, with our own selves. The way we see the world. Because we don't want to, if we want to be happy eating cheese and drinking milk and eating meat, we are going to have to just over and over and over again. And it just doesn't help our souls, and doesn't help this kind of choice. It doesn't help the other being. So in the end, nobody wins. But when we want to help, when we want this kind of pleasure that I'm talking about, of helping another being, helping just because it's right. It's not because we are going to get recognized by it. It's not because, it's just because we will remember, each one of us. It's not that you will remember what I'm doing, or that I will remember what you are doing. It's nothing like that. It's just about getting to sleep, getting to bed, going to bed, and having a nice, good night, because our consciousness is clean. And this is our awareness. And this is what I would like over and over and over again us to think about. We need to change the word. This is the first thing. To change the word, we need to change ourselves. And to change ourselves, we need to understand ourselves. And when we can do this, it's much better and easier and faster, actually, to inspire change in somebody else. Because we cannot say somebody just listening to us and you say, okay, I have already said that this is not good for master animals, you must stop eating this right now. And sometimes the person doesn't know how to cook, and sometimes the person is just lazy, and sometimes the person, each one of us, we are an universe, and we need to learn to talk to each other. We cannot just vomit truths over other people. We need to really find this as an opportunity to grow. So these people who are not listening, these people can teach us, as I said before, patience. These people can tell us, can some way, somehow, they can tell to our hearts that we need to get better on our speech. They can tell us, again, silently in our hearts, that we must be a better example. So again, we need to understand ourselves. And when we understand ourselves, we understand a little bit better the other one. And if we want to change this world, we cannot just turn our backs on the ones who are not listening. We need to do something. So that's why I said here, I'm going to put the name of this live streaming about awakening, because there's all these things are going on in the world today. Catastrophes everywhere, sadness, suffering, pain, and people don't seem to care. And why they don't seem to care? Because we have fallen asleep. So let's try with each other to just say, hello, 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 it's time to wake up. And how you're going to say this, we are going to have to look at each other's eyes and understand what's important in our own dreaming, so we can make a connection and ask people to come, to see, to sometimes people say that they do not want us to see what master animals are going through, because it's just, they get sad, they get depressed, and they do not want us to deal with that. And that's fine. It's something that is happening with them, but we can ask them and ask ourselves, this is our case, if we want to just choose to ignore suffering, or if we want to end suffering. Because if I want to choose to ignore suffering, it's a ego-based decision. But if and I believe each one of us has this calling, if we want to end suffering, then we find the strength to see. And if we see, we start changing, we start inspiring change. And this is what I would like you to feel when you look at, for instance, what is happening today with Master Horse Isis. And yes, somebody asked us in our comments, in our feed, and I'm not sure about the word, so you guys just hang in there with my English. But somebody asked specifically about if this was the Master Horse who had lost her baby. Yes, that is she. And she's at the hospital right now, and we are trying everything that we can to save her. Of course, she was very upset and sad after she lost her baby. And it's a emotional process for her. But it's actually an awakening for us. Because again, if we can look at this word and see, okay, this can be a lesson for me. What can she and they, thinking about not just the mother, but the child as well, what can they teach us about our lifestyle? Because she got to that condition just because she used to be exploited, carrying so much weight, that her body couldn't cope with that. And she has these problems today because of these times. So again, what can it touch? What can it teach us? One of the things, we need to look at our lifestyles. We need to see how we relate to her condition, because I'm not sure what will happen to her. The only thing that I can tell is that we are fighting with her. And if there is a chance, we are going to take that chance and make that happen. But we have more of them in places where sometimes we cannot see, we cannot look at them, and they are there. So how can we save the ones that are not cared for? Because Master Isis, yes, she's suffering. Yes, it's sad. Yes, everything. But she's looked after. But what about the ones that don't even have a name? The ones still invisible for most of us because we chose ego-based choice to ignore pain. If this is the case, again, just let's ask ourselves, do we want to ignore pain, or do we want to end pain? And if we want to end pain, and I do believe we do want this, because we are good people. We are ignorant, but we are good people. We ignore, but we are good people. So if we really want this, Just let's find the strength to get to know what's happening with our environment, to get to know what is happening with master animals, to get to know what is happening with our health. But we need to have the courage. And this is why I call this awakening. Every time that we choose to end suffering, every time that we choose to find the strength, every time that we look at the word and ask ourselves, how can this teach me something? And then the second part of this is how, based on what I learned, can I serve others to prevent this from happening again? Then I believe we are on the right path. Then I believe that we are not going, again, in that example that I gave about looking back at our lives. I don't think we will be ashamed of what we have lived. I think we will have some sort of peace of mind, even to leave this planet. So I encourage you to look at yourself, first of all, and then change the world you represent. Inspire change around you, and then things will start to happen. Another update that I wish to give you is about Master Nandi. He is this little calf that has he has 4 broken. He has arms and legs broken. And he's fighting for his life, and he lives with plenty dignity. What happened to him? Actually, what did we make to him? We as humans. We drank his milk. He was discarded in a very small dairy farm, and he never even had contact with his mother. He was for 5 days in an open pasture during a very, very difficult winter, without any food, without any love, without any caring. So this became a problem for his bones. This transformed his body in a complete arthritis, because every single joint of him presents a challenge. And of course we can say, oh, this happened because the dairy farmer, he didn't look after him. Yes, we could say this. Yes, we could. Or we can give it a second thought, as I had explained before, and realize that it happened because we ate cheese, because we drank his milk. If he is successful teaching us about the cause, the real cause of his condition, then we'll change. And if we change, each one of us, the world will change. Because it's not just about our change, it's just because we give examples. Because when we change, we can inspire people to change. Because when we truly believe that some sort of injustice is going on, we talk about it. Just think about it. Let's think that you know that something very wrong is happening to a child. You just don't say, okay, I'm not going to talk about this because I'm going to get into trouble. You're just like, okay, I'm going to fight for this. I'm not going to leave that child there. So it's in you. And when we do not have any separation from one kind of injustice to another kind of injustice, then we fight to end any injustice. And this is when we inspire change. So I ask you here to learn from all these stories that they are telling us, and be humble enough to look at yourself and think, how can I change? And how can I inspire change? Complain is not going to do this. The world is just coming to an end. If we think about everything that is happening in our forests, in our oceans, with master animals, again, with people. Just look at people. Do you see happy people around? It's not very often that we see. Because we are sad, we are depressed. Our lifestyles is not that, okay, lifestyle, our humane lifestyle doesn't work for master animals and for the environment. It's not just that. Our lifestyle doesn't even work for human beings because we are sad, we are depressed. People are taking medicine to go to sleep and taking another medicine to wake up, and taking another medicine just to cope with the day. So we cannot say that it's okay, that's fine, I don't care for master animals, I don't care for the environment, and I'm fine. No, we are not fine. Just look around, people are not happy. We are just trying to get some pleasure, but we are not going to be happy until the time that we realize that we all need to be happy for us to find happiness. It's just the suffering of the other being affect us. And if we choose to ignore, we know that we are lying to ourselves. And of course, we are going to face a crisis. And that's fine. Just face your crisis. But come up some other kind of human being after the crisis. But don't avoid the crisis. Don't pretend it's not happening. Don't look at yourself and say, oh, everything is fine and just going to blame somebody else. No. It depends on us. So when we look at them, just let them teach us. Let them awake us. Let them talk to us. Let them invite us to come from this deep, deep sleep to some sort of aware state of mind. One that connected to the heart can feel whatever the other is going through. And even though I cannot understand the heart of a master snake, I know that he or she doesn't want to die and doesn't want to suffer, because this is something that is one and the same for all of us. We want to be happy. We want to be free from suffering. And if we understand this again without separations, it changes our minds. And then we start to inspire and change in others. We need to wake. These beings are waiting for us to wake. There is no more time. There are no more excuses. We need and we must, for the sake of every single creature. And the last update I want to give was about a Reels that I had just posted. Today was a day that I cried because I was happy. I cried because I was sad. I cried because a friend sent me a very, very beautiful song. I cried, and here I am. And this is perhaps before giving the update about Master Guarani, I want to talk about one time. I'm not sure if you guys know about Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo. She's a Buddhist monk, actually nun, not monk, Buddhist nun. She is originally from England, but she's a Tibetan Buddhist nun nowadays. And I had some conversations with her, and she's just this amazing soul capable of shining light in our minds, in our hearts. And anyhow, talking to her in that occasion, I showed her about the dairy industry. I showed her a video, and during the time she was looking at the video, she cried. And it was I was very impacted by that. I didn't expect her to cry. I expected her to talk about that, and because she's very supportive of vegetarian diet, and it was a big time change for Tibetan monasteries and nunneries, because in Tibet, because of the cold, because of the weather, they do not talk much about a vegetarian or a vegan diet. It started to happen, I would say, in the past few years because of everything that is happening with the environment, not just because of master animals. But anyhow, I didn't expect her to cry. And I was just shocked looking at her. And then she was just totally into the movie. Totally. It was a 5 minutes movie about the dairy industry. And she didn't blink. She watched the movie from the beginning to the end. And she cried. And I saw her tears. And I was moved by that and shocked and impacted. I didn't know what to do. I was just silent there and just like, okay, she's going to say something when everything is over and I don't know what to do. And again, just remember that I have a relationship with her, that I'm talking to my teacher, to my master, to my guru. And I was just like, oh my God, what do I do now? So when the movie ended, she began to talk about the urgency of change. And all the tears went away. And she was changed by another kind of behavior, the one that inspires people around. And this meeting was, besides myself, we had 4 other people. And I was just like, okay, there's something just great to learn from this. And what I learned from this is about, we cannot hide our emotions. We cannot just say, okay, everything is sad and painful and I'm here because I'm strong and I'm not going to cry and I'm not going to get upset and everything is fine. Yes, we can lie to ourselves. But the thing is, when we see a baby coming to this world, we might cry. When we see a soul leaving her or his body in this world, we might cry. When we see something that is very, very joyful, we might cry. When we see something very, very sad, we might cry. So that experience taught me so much. And I would like just to talk about this because every now and then I realize that people don't want to touch emotions again. And that's fine. That's fine that we feel. It's actually a great blessing, because if we didn't feel, I think we had already turned this world to ashes. So this is a great thing that we feel. The thing is, what do we do with what we feel? What do you do? Do you go to drugs? Do we go to the therapist? Do we give up? What do we do? This is the main difference, I guess, because we all feel. And we can pretend we do not feel, or we can actually feel it and say, okay, what am I going to do with this? So if I'm sad, I'm looking at my sadness and I'm saying, I need to finish this sadness. And I know, how can I be happy if I am feeling sad because a master cow, a master calf, or because of the oceans, or because of other humans? How can I trying to make them happy? And not this happiness that is related to pleasure, this happiness that is related to doing something good to somebody else. This is how I am going to leave my sadness behind, trying to make them happy. And this is where I usually talk about service. And this is what Jitsuma represents to me. And this is about many other people around the world devoting their life to service. So I would like us to serve a higher purpose. I'm not talking about religion here or God. I do not know what you believe. I'm talking about serving others. About whatever you have, whoever you are, just serve others. Just serve their happiness. Just serve them in order to protect them. Sometimes we need to protect them from themselves. If we are talking about some sort of behavior from human beings, sometimes helping them is keeping them from themselves. I don't know who you are again, what you believe, but I just would like you to, can we serve others? Can we start to be happy because we are making other beings happy? Can we do this? Because if we can, then I believe we are going to be better people. But not just this. We are going to provide something to the other that cannot be paid for. Actually, if we continue to do what we are doing, we won't have money. We won't have anything to buy. We won't have anywhere to go. We will have money. We will be sitting on a desert with money on our hands. And this is misery. This is poverty. So I'm talking about some sort of richness, a kind of richness that doesn't relate to money. That relates again to the soul. As I talked about pleasures from the senses and pleasures from the soul or to the soul. So can we do this? Can we serve others? So wherever you are, whoever you are, just make sure that something in you can be given to the other. And you may say, Patricia, I do not have anything to give. I do not know how to serve. I'm shy. I am positive there's something you can do. And if you choose to do so, you are going to be a much happier person. And being a much happier person, in this sense, I'm positive that you made somebody happy. And this means that we cared for others. And I think this is the word. This is what the world needs today. We need to care for each other. Not just humans, every single being. We need to do this. So this is what I wanted to talk. And actually, I almost forgot about Master Guarani. That was the first time that he went out since we rescued him. And I was crying just a little bit before because we are just a little bit earlier actually, because we're just dealing with this. We are still dealing with the situation and Master Isis condition, trying to understand how can we help and what kind of treatment. Anyhow, and then we opened his door for the first time. When he came out his room, he stopped. He looked one way, and I realized we're very close to them here. I realized he was just like, okay, am I here? Is it true? Am I outside my room after 3 months? And when he realized he was, because he was in this special treatment again, when he realized, he jumped. But he has a broken hand. So I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And at the same time, I was crying and I couldn't hold my tears. And I remember Jetsum again, just feel, because feeling is a blessing. And again, what do we do with what we feel? We just get depressed and go to the therapist, or we say, okay, let's change the word and then I'm going to be happy when others are happy. So anyhow, that was just so beautiful. And I wanted to share this with you. Let them teach you. Let them awake you in the same way that I think I can talk or I can speak by or for the whole team. We learn from them every single day, every single moment. We learn from them. We get inspired by them. We look at the world with a little bit more of hope, just because we know their fantastic spirits are here trying to wake us up. So I hope you can. I hope you can say no to milk, say no to cheese, not because you do not think that they taste not good. You just changed your mind. No, you just continue to think they taste good, but they are not good anymore. Because you know the truth. You know that you are hurting somebody else. And you do not want this. So again, it has nothing to do with taste. It has to do with your heart and with your values. And then everything changes. And it's easy when we connected here. I hope you can. And if you find it difficult, just know that we are here to support you. The whole team, our whole team. Just to support you, because we believe you can. And when we do this, we are going to change your part in this world, because you represent the whole world. And this will be a better place after you. So I thank you for this. I'm going to end with I try to inspire people every day. Thank you so much. I'm going to end here with a mantra, because we usually do this. And I just wanted to thank you for listening to this talk and for following this work and this aspiration of ours, this aspiration of serving. I hope we can walk together on this path of serving others and changing the world. Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shiva Om Namah. Thank you so much.